We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.
Oh, yes, bitches.
Oh, here we are once again with the Nothing Sacred interview.
Yes, sir. We got. Oh, go ahead.
Let's go with this one. I'm Cruise Control.
And I'm Maxwell Silverhammer. And in the building, we've got former Compton police officer and former security of Death Row and owner of Death Row Records, Reggie Wright Jr. What's going on, man?
Oh, where you get that owner of Death Row Records from? I was just the general manager. I wasn't the owner.
Okay. No, just general. Okay.
General manager. All right.
Cool. Yeah, that's what that was actually one of my questions.
Okay.
But
let's clear that up.
Yeah, let's start out, man. So you grew up with Suge, right?
Yeah. We grew up on. We've been knowing each other. I was in the second grade, and he was in the third grade. So we went to the same elementary school, junior high, and high school.
Wow.
Oh,
Went all the way through school with him. Now, at the time, he wasn't banging, right?
No, none of us was really banging. We all grew up in the same area, but not, we were fortunate enough to have two parents home. And also, our dads and mothers wasn't allowing that. And so, fortunately, we were the ones that kind of went to school and was steering towards the playing sports growing up and in high school.
Man, I just wonder where he got, because people look at him like he's this notorious blood and he was, he's banged out. He's this, that. Where did all that come from?
Well, I think it came from later in, about 88 to 90 because of the guys. And unfortunately, how the industry made you had to bring those type of guys around you. And for the entourages and all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, wait, we got to do one thing because we do with all the first responders, whether current or former. Yeah, we got to thank you for your service, man.
Yep, absolutely, man. Thank you for being.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's the time I'm very proud of. A lot of people like to tap at me, but because I did do both sides of the fence. But when I was a cop, man, I respect that. I still respect that. That law enforcement and that side. Of my past and all of that, I understand a lot. I understand the other side of the fence a little better than I did when I was a cop, but I just contribute that to being age because I was one of those that started being a cop at a very, very young age, working in the jails at 19 and on the streets of Compton like at the age of 22.
So you were doing that before you got involved with Suge Knight then?
Oh yeah, way before. As far as working for Death Row. But I started working for the City of Compton Police Department in January of 1985.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Man.
How was it back then? I mean, let's see if we're starting back there anyways. Like, how was it back then in terms of, obviously it's different, the glamorized idea of movies like Colors and that kind of stuff. Well,
wasn't Ronald Reagan was the president, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what he was doing in the Black communities. Yeah. He was funding a war, and that cocaine was very very much in our community, and then guys learning how to rock it up, and so the things that y'all saw, believe about 50 to 40% of what y'all seeing on the show Snowfall, and a lot of that is accurate. And how the rock cocaine, and if you listen to Freeway Rick or Chico Brown or any of them talk about the amount of kilos and drugs that they were putting into the community back in the 80s. Yeah, I believe it.
How long were you a police officer?
11 years from 19. Well, actually, I worked in the jail for about 3 years. So 8 years on the streets as a cop, and the other 3 was a civilian employee as a jailer for the City of Compton Police Department.
And what time did you get involved with? Did you get involved with security for Suge or Death Row while you were a cop, or was that after?
Yeah, like 1994. And
Okay.
so in the last 2 years of my law enforcement career, I was working for Suge Knight, being head of his security and supplying other police officers to work for the company.
Okay.
You know,
Must
my
be.
big question, since we're going back to the 80s and things, a lot of the accounts that I hear about the Compton Police Department is there was a lot of racism. Was that true?
From the cops?
Yeah, with the cops and the
Well, I never really heard that about Compton. I heard that about LAPD, but for the city of Compton, which is, you know, about 8 to 10 miles, well, it's borderline. Some parts of LA is borderline of Compton, but you know, the Rampart and all of that is like 20, 30 miles away. And so, you know, we're in the same county. If y'all know anything about counties versus states, because I don't know.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah, well, I'm sure we all in the United States is
Yeah.
the same. But for the people that's not in the U.S., you know, counties have a bunch of cities within the county, and then the county is within the states.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, we were majority 50-50 in the 80s, 50%. Well, not 50 because we had a few Mexican police officers. So probably 50 black, 46 white, and then the other 4% Mexicans. And so to make up the department of about 150 to 160 sworn police officers. And to be honest, the majority of them were mixed. You know, as far as in the brass. And what I mean by that, you had a lot of captains and lieutenants and sergeants that were black. You had a lot that were white that were still hanging on because the city of Compton paid well, and they were one of the highest paying city police departments in the region. And so a lot of them stayed, but then a lot of them did start to leave eventually. But I'm saying all that to say you couldn't be really a racist police officer. You know, when you're working with a whole bunch of
different people,
you know,
right?
Other races.
Well, and that's why I wanted to dispense that a little bit, because you know when you watch Straight Outta Compton, you know, it seemed like every single dealing they had with police officers was negative and racial.
Well, I hope y'all realize that was in the city of Torrance, which is in LA County, but that was in Torrance PD. If you know the history of that incident that happened with them, which is still to this day probably only have 5 black officers in it in their city. And so that is part of LA County. It's a nice part of LA County. You know, it's not Beverly Hills or anything, but it's a nice area. But that happened in the city of Torrance, and they still predominantly, I don't know how many officers they have, but I'm sure over 90% are whites.
What was your motivation for becoming a police officer in the beginning?
Wanted to be like Daddy.
Oh, really? Okay, your dad was a cop.
Yeah, my father was a police officer, and and I looked up to him. To be honest, I wanted to be in law enforcement. I mean, attorney, growing up and going to college and stuff, but that quickly got derailed once I became about 21, 22 after graduating and starting to make that money as a police officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you, a gang officer, or were you just general patrol?
I eventually, at one point, towards later part of my career, but not at the beginning. But I was very influenced. And it was hard not to be a street cop in Compton and know anything about gangs in the city of Compton, because pretty much that's all you deal with. You know, you can elect to go the traffic route way, or Compton have different specialties. But yeah, I went and chasing the rock, what we used to call it, chasing the cocaine, guns arrest, and the gang members. I wasn't one out there writing a whole bunch of tickets and stuff like that. We called those officers ticketrons. I wasn't one of those, but we had some ticketron cops. But I probably wrote 100 tickets in my a year, if that, which is not a lot of tickets at all.
Wow. So are you still in that area? Are you living in that area now, or?
I'm about 60 miles away in Riverside, a county called Riverside, California, which a lot of people move that's from LA just because of the housing. get a nice little house about anywhere from 600 to $1
Yeah.
million. And back when I was in the 80s and the 90s, they were where
Yeah.
the new homes were being built, new development and stuff like that. And so I moved out, but both my grandparents lived there. My one grandparent, well, two of them died, my grandmother and grandfather, and they eventually moved. But one of my grandmothers just moved out in the last year. And so I say all that to say I was going down there, if not weekly, at least 3 to 4 times a month. And my wife's parents still live in Linwood, which is the city right next over to there. And we go visit them about once or twice a month. So I still go down that way, but
I'm curious just to know how is it? I mean, would you say it's over the last? I mean, obviously that was when it was really big in terms of the news. Was in the 80s and early 90s. But how would you say? Is it you say it's worse now than it was then, or is it better now than it was then?
well,
Kind of the same.
well, it's hard to say. They both, it was bad times. It's mainly now a Mexican community. The Mexicans is probably the majority in the city, currently in the city of Compton. But they have still their issues. I'm talking about the gangs issue, the narcotics still going, and not like the rock cocaine was,
Right.
but they got other things now, the lean and the robbing people for money and stuff like that, robbing people.
Yeah.
Smash
all
and
of
grabs
that's
that
still
they're
going
doing.
on. Yeah. And
Man.
so it's unfortunate. It's, you have kids that are, and young people that really taking the easy way out and still wanting to live because you know how the gram is and you want to look good and all of that. And so you got to have the nice purses and the nice jewelry and the nice cars and the Instagram means everything to them.
Yeah. It's
And,
your public image on social media kind of thing.
Exactly.
Wow. So how did you get into death row as
There we
far
go.
as, was it something where Suge called you or what happened there?
Yeah. So Suge and I, like I said, we had a relationship. We played football together and all of that. We go way back, and I was into law enforcement. He knew that, and he was, of course, was blowing up with death row. He had started it in like 91, 92, but he was doing very, very well 93, 94. And so he was hiring guys that was from the neighborhood that we all grew up in. And my father had got some intel that they were planning on extorting him for money. And we just wanted to call and give them heads up. I said, hey, man, some of these guys are talking. You need to, watch yourself. You need to, take some security precautions. Not looking for a job or anything, not even thinking about it. But he mainly go and say, hey, well, that's why I need y'all around me. I need y'all to come over there. Me being young, 26, 27 years old, had just had a traffic accident. And so I was working my way back in to getting back on my feet and stuff, but was having this issue with my ankle where I was having to really start to think about a second career.
Oh,
But
shit.
yeah, but not hard. I was dealing with it. I had no desire at that time to do what I eventually did, but mainly to be around, all of this money and, what was going on and try to start up a business. And so he was like, and so my dad was like, well, no, I'm just giving you heads up. I don't have no desire. Most niggas is working for you. I'm trying to put in jail, for something.
he was still a police officer at the time, right? When all this
He and I both were.
Oh, wow.
And so we talking like 1994. And so I started doing some stuff. They had just had the Snoop Dogg incident and all of that, where they had to pay out their major judgment and stuff. I was working on it, and Snoop was on trial because of, lack of security, because I guess security ultimately did what he was supposed to do. but they were getting scrutinized because the element or the type of guy that was being their security. Where if it probably was a guy that was a law enforcement that did it, it would have been justified. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or they would have dealt with it in a different way. Or maybe law enforcement wouldn't have been coming at them so hard. And so it intrigued me. And eventually, develop a security company from it and just started working for him, but still working for the police department on like a part-time basis. Not every day and all of that, just whenever they needed some guys to go to events or needed a party set up or something like that, we'll coordinate the security for his company.
Wow.
So I did that for about a year or two. But then an incident at the El Rey Club happened.
Oh, okay.
That's with the DJ Quick and the guy, the Kelly Jamerson guy from the 60 Crips.
The Rolling 60 that they got beat, it's crushed?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so by that time, now the FBI, everybody looking, LAPD coming down. And my chief of police was like, hey, y'all not working for them no more. I better not catch y'all around them no more or anything. But now I'm, been around for a year and a half. I got closer relationship back with Suge, making money, already thinking, setting up my security company and, kind of in too deep, as my dad always say. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So he's like, okay, you're going to end up getting fired. Let me catch you around them or let me find out something happens. You're going to get fired. So to make a long story short, I eventually, my ankle just gave out on me where I took and went and got a medical retirement and just started working for Suge directly more often, mainly on like a daily basis, and got my security guard company going to where probably about 10 or 12 guys a day was working, doing, with 2 guys with Snoop, eventually a guy with Pac, a guy, 2 guys at the studio, a guy at the office, just coordinating the security for the company. And you got to remember Death Row doing good now. You got the Murder Was the Case album out, Doggy Style Case, album doing well. Dr. Dre,
It's got to be right around 95, right? I'd say.
Yeah, 95.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
When
Yep.
Tupac came over to Death, because it wasn't. Was he on?
Not
Death?
yet, not yet,
no.
but he was coming.
Yeah,
But
okay.
now we doing real good. So now we doing a lot of stuff. Tupac came October the 12th of 1995, but by the time he was out, I was deep into it. And my security company, Right Way Protective Services, was deep into Death Row. And I was on my way out, had put in my retirement papers, and was going to the doctors and all of that to get out and to get retired.
Wow. So that's crazy. So you just got you basically your ankle is kind of a good excuse to get out of there, but also a good reason. Like it was kind of like the best timing for that, I guess, right?
Exactly. Looking back on it now, and I probably wished I would have went through it, pushed through it and maybe elected to stay and be a regular guy and just retired, because a lot of my friends that was working for me now are starting to retire and, did a good 30 years of service. And but I learned a lot and went through a lot during that time as well, as I'm sure we'll eventually talk about. And so it's a good and bad. I hate to say that look back and say wish I could have, should have, did but I always wonder what would have happened if, just to answer your question, it was a good thing that happened if I would have just stayed in law enforcement or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's and just to clarify, that guy, the Rolling 60 at the club, he was crushed, right? It was a stampede of people or something.
Yeah, it was an assault allegedly, and he got fight or got stumped to death.
Ah, man, that's crazy. So then, Pac dog pounds out, then Pac comes. And didn't you have to pick him up from the airport or do some kind of thing like that?
I was the one that picked him up from the airport. But I did also go up with Suge a few times to visit him in prison. I didn't go, I stayed in the car, but I did escort and go with Suge and David Kenner about 3 or 4 different occasions when they went up there to meet, to negotiate or to talk about him coming home, and how you meet with people when they're in prison.
It's talking on that phone, a little visit phone or whatever they're doing.
Well, no, I don't know how they did it because I never went inside, but
Right.
I'm pretty sure I know from my experience with attorney visit in prison, you usually can meet face to face.
Oh, that's right, because they had the attorney with them. Yeah. So,
David Kenner. Yeah.
wow. So you picked Pac up. How was he when he first got out of jail? Was he
Excited? He was very excited about being out, as we all were coming home. He went straight to the studio. I don't know how long he stayed in New York. He might have even stayed a day in New York, because that's where he went from. But I knew he flew in. Everybody talk about the private jets and this and that. Now he flew in on a regular commercial plane and was picked up at LAX. And myself and Kevin Hackey and CLS limousine service picked him up, took him straight to the Can-Am studio where everybody was at.
Mm-hmm.
And he went in there in the studio, and they got to working and partying and feeling good. About 4 or 5 hours later, he came out because he got a little, I'm sure his system was clean, and he kind of got overwhelmed a little bit. And
yeah, I guess it's been a while since he smoked any weed or drank any
exactly, and drinking alcohol and all that. And I remember Pac passed out, y'all. he either had a seizure or something where he just passed out, and
wow.
We had to revive him. And then that's when we got him to the hotel, and he was at the Peninsula Hotel and doing this thing for about 3 or 4 months, making that All Eyes on Me hit album.
Wow.
Yeah, that was incredible. Matter of fact, I remember I actually bought that album first before
Matter of fact,
did.
Today, I don't know when it's going to air, you guys, but guess what today is the 27-year anniversary of?
Oh, no way.
The release?
The release of that album?
The release.
No,
13th of February. Exactly 27 years
wow.
to today.
Damn. That's crazy. Yeah. Because I remember Cruise Control. I was never a huge Pac fan. And Cruise Control got the album. He's like, dude, you got to listen to this All Eyes on Me album. And I'm like, man, it's Tupac. I ain't really feeling Tupac. And so when he was living out there in San Diego, I went out to visit him. And finally he got me. I was held captive. And he's like, all right, man, here we go. We're going to play this. And he puts this on. And the first thing I hear is Ambitions as a Rider.
So you listened to this 2 first then.
I thought that was 1. Wasn't that 1?
No, that's this 2. This 1 or something. Well, you might be right.
I might have been playing just the songs that I was really digging, like at that time. Who knows?
Okay, because that was
definitely forgot it was a 2-part. Yep, it was. That was
this 2. I think major. I can't think offhand right now. I used to know this backwards, but I know there was this 2. California Love and all the the radio friendly stuff was on this 1, and the stuff that Daz and all of that. There was this 2. You Can't See Me. Yeah, that was Heart of a Man and stuff like that. Was this 2. Stuff with Big Psych and now that was the one you put in your car and you rode to.
But this one was bang. I like this one better.
That was commercial. That was 2 of America Most Wanted.
It had Ambitions as a Rider
sample. Yeah,
Bring the Pain was on there.
Yeah. So this one was California Love, of course.
Yeah,
Can't mention Pac without talking about that.
No, that's still freaking. I mean,
How Do You Want It?
Yep.
All of that.
Great song. Like I said, that's just so when he played that for me, I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, okay, all right, I changed my mind. So
did you feel Machiavelli then?
I did.
Okay.
Well, after that, I was a fan. Okay. So then I started getting his later stuff, and then going back through his catalog, going, hey man, I actually like this, Strictly for My Niggas or Be Against the World, and so that's what I did. I just went, I kind of would go back and go, man, I got to give him a second listen. So that was because of Cruise Control, man.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, so it's like that was back then. That's when it really went. I mean, that was everywhere.
And that's why a lot of people get mad when I say Pac wasn't as famous as we make him out to be today back in 95, 96. I catch a lot of flack for saying that.
No, it's true.
It's true.
Me Against This World was his best album prior to Death Row, and that only sold 2 million records,
Yeah.
And he just wasn't as big as a superstar. He had great songs, Me Against the World, not Me Against the World, I Get Around and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Right.
or Death Around the Corner.
Yeah, Brenda Had a Baby, so people knew those videos, but they didn't know the lyrics. I think they mix up after what they did, like you did, where you started listening to it and then you got into the music going backwards.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
But
So they were like Johnny Come Lately Pac fans, kind of like myself.
that's what I really believe. A lot of people get mad and say I'm crazy. I'll be like, okay, whatever. I used to be with him. I knew how people react.
Yeah.
And then eventually react, and then how they go crazy, they'll kill you over him now.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah. You can't say anything bad about Pac now.
Oh man.
Ooh. But here's the other thing too. Pac was always a very conscious rapper. Very, you know what I mean? A lot of his older music, he was a really conscious dude. So then when he came to Death Row, what happened? What was the whole change where he started yelling West Side, and it seemed like he was kind of
he was different. He was a different element. He had been to prison. He was hanging around guys that were gang affiliate more, and he was a different artist, a different type of a label, where he was with a label that allowed you to push all of that. Not saying Interscope had but he was more being a political rapper, and political or sane or conscious, maybe for a better word, rapper. Then now he became a party type rapper, stuff to make you dance a bit. You wasn't in the clubs listening to dancing to Brenda Had a Baby or anything like that.
No. That's not.
And stuff. But now you got songs like California Love, You Can't See Me, How Do You Want It? And now you want to, party.
Yeah.
So
I guess a different element.
Yeah. Was that his last full regular album before he passed?
Well, Machiavelli, that was the last one that came out that he was able to work and promote.
Yeah.
But Machiavelli, he did have his hand on that album and fine-tuned that album. Only thing that we did that he probably wanted to do the change on that album is when him and Nas made up at the park at the MTV Music Awards. He wanted to take that verse, this and Nas off of the song, but or that not take the song off, just take that verse off. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's and where did all of a sudden after he died, there was a shitload of material just coming out from Pac. And where did all that come from?
You got to remember he was out on appeal bond, right? So when you're out on appeal bond, you're still you're hoping you're gonna win your case, but there's a possibility that you ain't.
Oh.
So he was taking care of business, handling his business, just in case he had to go sit back down for a couple of more years.
So he made sure he got a lot of songs out, and then it just happened that you guys had so many in the vault. It was just like, oh, let's just keep releasing.
And he had the ability to do it. He was with a guy that had unlimited budgets where he could make it happen, being Suge and Death Row, where you can just go in there and say, go. When you want studio time.
That's true.
You want to do a video today? Okay. Let's do a
shit
video.
That shit was expensive. I remember that.
Yeah. And then, to be honest, a lot of the music because you'll notice a lot of the if you really listen to his music, a lot of the stuff, the biggest song that he had, that he won a Grammy for, Changes. Most people don't know those lyrics was used before.
Oh,
on Heaven Has the Ghetto.
Oh wow!
If you go listen to those lyrics, you'll see those lyrics been used before.
That's crazy. Well, it was that sample, right? The Bruce Hammersby sample.
Yeah, that was a major sample. And actually, some East Coast producers did it. Trackmasters did it. This guy named Steve Stout put it together and made that song happen.
So, so you said that you started out as security, obviously, and then you went on, became a general manager for the whole company.
Yeah, that was just on a trust thing for me and Suge, his history of growing up.
Yeah,
where him being in prison, and needed somebody that he can probably control or trust or whatever the word is, and and Reggie just happened to be in that spot. And it was just on JT. Didn't know the business, didn't know anything about the business. And this was really a messenger. And we'll be like, well, I will handle it this way because you're not able to run the business or be in control of a business while you're in prison.
Yeah.
And so this pretty much, this is how I would handle it, Reg. This is what I would do. And that meant do that nigga.
So that's
I mean, this is how I would do it. Hint, hint. You better do it that way.
Yeah, do it that way. I would do it. So wait a minute now.
Funny.
So that was like 97, right? That's when he got locked up.
That started happening in 97. Yeah.
97.
About June, July 97 is when I officially changed hats, I guess. Put on a different hat.
How did Young Soldiers end up on our Break Bread Mafia, or they went by a bunch of different names? Were they actually death row acts, or would they just do a few songs with you for you guys or something?
Okay. Well, Break Bread came later. That was one of my partners, Tata. And actually that was my album that I took with the Relatives.
Relatives,
yeah. Takeover. That was actually all me when I left Death Row and when Suge came home in 2002. And I went and took down with me over to this company called American Music. And did this album called The Takeover with the Relatives. And so I was the executive producer on that. But Young Soldiers was actually another guy. There was two guys, Big Y and a guy named Big Stretch.
Little Stretch, yep.
And we have Little Stretch actually, and his brother's Big Stretch. But they were on the Relatives. They did the song on Murder Was the Case, East Side Niggas, West Side Niggas, and all of that.
Right.
But I kind of took a liking to the Relatives with because of Big Y and Sugar Booger. And that was the first act that when I broke away that I pulled with me because they wasn't under any contracts with Death Row. And I did an album on them. Well, Tata did one with Break Bread, and that's where you see that. And then called Dirty Money. And then, but that was like independent underground. And then I took and got a deal with them and put them out in like 2003 or something like that, 2004, 2003.
Wow, that's crazy. This must, but what a journey to go from a police officer to security to actually producing full albums.
Yeah. That's
a nice resume there, man.
Yeah. That's why I always tell people I've been all over the place. I wore a lot of hats. But yeah.
Well,
I learned a lot, learned a lot on the job. And, I was working for Koch Entertainment up until about, I got in trouble in 2017 up until about 2018 is when I really stopped really working in the business.
So here you got music, law enforcement, a lot of stuff. Well, like, one question our mutual friend, Henry wanted us to ask you, was there a situation where Suge got into it at the hospital with somebody the night that Pac got shot?
The night that Pac got shot? No, Suge was, Suge didn't get into it with nobody. He had a, bullet in his head or fragment in his head.
Right.
And last I remember he just went home and was worried about Pac.
Yeah.
And went to his house in Vegas about 4 or 5 that morning. And all concerns went on a retaliation, revenge, and get back and worried about Pac.
Speaking of retaliation, revenge, and get back, what's going on with Daz and you, man?
Nah, that's just trolling. I actually kind of like Daz.
Okay.
We go back and forth and all of that, but I put out something in the universe that probably guys don't like to hear about. And I kept harping on that. He responded back and it just kept going to where the relationship got bad. But being an older guy now, I wish I wouldn't have went down that that line or that
rabbit hole,
that route.
Yeah.
But I did, so I can't regret it. I'm not one going wish I could have, would have, should have. Well, I do wish I could have, would have, but I don't try to cover it up. And I ain't talking about that no more. Nah, I did it. I owned it.
Right. It happened, but it's not continuing, kind of thing.
Yeah, I wished I would have. Wished I wouldn't have did it, but it happened. So nigga, what? And
Now,
so,
and one interview you were talking about like artists like Snoop got sold to No Limit and things like that. So how come there was this, like, I know on the, well, I think it was the Chronic 2001 or whatever album, they were going at No Limit so hard, you know, it almost sounded like Snoop left, you know.
it wasn't so much at No Limit, to be honest. It wasn't so much at No Limit. It was just it was mainly Snoop who was disappointed with. Snoop was doing diss songs. He was doing stuff that was going underground. He did a lyric. He did a song called, you know, talking about Mr. Night, Miss Night, Lay Low. Only reason you ain't got because I ain't said the word. You a big old whale sitting in cell telling tales. You was a CEO. Now you're an inmate. You know, Snoop was doing his diss. You know, people weren't catching it, but we caught it. And so we just had a bigger voice or a different voice, you know, where we could put it out, where he was just doing his stuff underground. But, you know, people done heard it. You go pull it up. It's out there. And so it was mainly just tapping back. But, you know, I don't like to use the word sold. I'll use the word assigned now. Right. People get mad about saying sold and stuff like that.
Oh, gee, because the world is full of a bunch of people that...
Yeah.
But that's what happened, though. It wasn't like he left
right.
Death Row because he's mad and doesn't like his contract or anything like that. It was you guys. It was consensual.
No,
okay.
It was like, now we're gonna make a deal for you to get off and get some money because we can't mess with each other no more. But you ain't just leaving. You ain't gonna be no. You know, you can be like Dre. You can be like Dre or Tina Turner, where you just leave everything and be like, take your name.
Right.
Now we're gonna get some money.
So they just took off, and that was that. Yeah, because I know, and even on the Too Gangsta for the Radio, they were going bad on on Snoop.
Well, and that was just responding to him.
Right.
You know, things that we, you know, the tit for tat stuff. You got to remember, you got 28, 30-year-old guys that's in charge of all of this at the time. And so it started a war. That's the only thing we knew. You get back. You ain't getting one up on me.
Right. Well, they even took some shots at Eminem too, and I guess that's because he was Dre's artist.
This would Dre. That's all.
Just affiliation kind of thing. Yeah.
Because Dre was no longer with Death Row after a while, right? He left.
No, he left. He walked away in like '96.
Yeah, when after he got big off a lot of California and a bunch of other stuff. Well, not big. He was always big.
Yeah, he was big. He had his name. And he got with Jimmy, and Jimmy just said, "Hey, you don't want to deal with that no more. Okay, all right, bye." But the main reason why Tupac is the one that brought it to Suge attention and stuff like that. Say, hey, this guy never is around the studio. Don't come around. And not really putting out no songs on any of us or producer for us. This is why most of us want to be here. This is why I came here. He don't go to court and support Snoop. He didn't show up one day during the trial to support him and all that. No, we don't need to be with him.
I didn't realize
so that was the main reason.
That's interesting.
Yeah, people don't, they miss all of that. But that's what was, and Suge was still like, didn't really want, was protecting Dre. He didn't want that breakup, even though he got 50% of a $100 million company at the time.
Well, part of that has to do with Dre being such a household like name in terms of rap at that time, because he was one of those people that everybody knew. He was on MTV all the time.
Well, it was more so tired of the BS. Dre grew up probably a little quicker than us, and or had somebody in his ear that was telling him it's going to end bad. You don't need this. You don't need to be around this. And fortunately, he's right.
Yeah.
It turns out that he was right. But I contribute to Dre just being like, hey, I'm a musician. I'm not with this. I'm tired of this. I don't need this. You remember he had a DUI case. He had a reckless case. He had some assault cases and stuff like that.
Right.
I congratulate him on getting that new award, but I call it the Ike Turner Award. I say, what real female on top of the world gonna want to win that award now? They're gonna be that award gonna be known as the Ike Turner Award. But anyway, that's just Reggie talking shit.
Well, that's the Speaking of that, there was a Michelet album that came out on Death Row too.
Well, none of us take claim for that. We put that on her. That was her doing.
I was gonna say that was not because her, obviously the first album she did, with Ruthless was great. That was a really nice
That's
album.
because Dre and L.A. Dre and all of them, Laylaw and all of them had control.
Yeah,
but
that was
you
a
give
great
an artist, a female artist, control of their artist or their own album.
Oh, she wanted all that. I was wondering because that was I'm sorry, but that was a garbage
all
album.
Her doing. And Suge loved her so much. That wasn't just no I'm fucking on your woman type of situation. He loved Mr. Lane. He fell in love.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so well, we all know how that works.
Yep. Yep. The love trap, man.
That stuff is powerful, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So basically you were there until because obviously there's no more Death Row anymore, right? I don't think it's.
So this is my history with it. Was there from 94. Suge came home in 2001. By 2002, I was like, oh no, I got to get away from this. She's still crazy, nigga. And I was like, man, I had got my house raided behind the Biggie Small stuff and all that.
Oh shit!
And I had cleaned up the company name in my mind, got up everything out of debt, was doing all type of stuff. And he came home, we out all night, going to clubs fighting, like, nope, can't do it. I'm 34, 35 years old now. Can't do it.
You're like, nope. Yeah, at some point you go.
Yeah. But I got stupid. I came back and he got a probation violation in 2004, 2005.
Oh.
So of course, who he called to come back and run the company while he got to go do this violation. So I go back. But right after that day, I swear the day he came home, I left. But the good thing about then, I developed a relationship with this guy named Michael Koch, who was the owner or the president of E1 Entertainment, Koch Entertainment, Koch Records in E1. He kept me around.
Okay.
Like, you ain't got to work for Suge. You just work for us and you deal with him whenever we need something or whatever. But I'll take care of you.
Go ahead.
So I did that up until, I did that up, like I said, till about 2018. But in the meantime, Suge didn't go into bankruptcy. I still love the nigga. He's like a brother because we grew up so long. I go back and start helping him out for a couple of months. A few months, doing the bankruptcy, trying to make some deals and stuff like that happen. And then the feds, that's when they investigated this Biggie Small stuff in about 2008, 2009, and got away from me, during that time. And then 2010, 2012, I was just working for E1 or Koch. Always talking to him, communicating, but not dealing with him like that.
It's better for you. I mean, and was it like no bad feelings? Did he understand where you were coming from?
Exactly. He knew. I just wasn't like that no more.
That's cool.
No.
So you were able to walk away without any bad blood?
Oh yeah. Me and Suge still love each other. Through people. Now I just got off probation February the 1st, 13 days ago. So now I can't communicate with him and stuff like that. So I'll probably reach out and start communicating with him and all that. But there's no real beneficial other than just being a friend now.
Right.
To be honest, to being with in the Suge Knight business.
Well, no, I had one more Death Row question actually. For a while they had a lot of, I guess they were saying they were kind of sound-alikes. Like they had Top Dog that was they said sounded like Snoop, the Realist sounded like Pac. Was that done on purpose or was that something that just happened to be?
Well, they fell in our lap. It wasn't like we went out and say we want a Snoop Dogg sound alike or Snoop Dogg sound alike. But they came across our desk, and then and even Milk Bone, that sounded like that sounded like him. They all came across our desk, or Twister. I think it might have been Twister that we. No, Twister was just a fast rapper.
That was the guy. Chicago, the fast dude.
No, not him. It was a white guy named Twister that we had too, not the guy from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
So we all had those three sound-alikes, but that was just really to mainly try to confuse the public on some things. And the Realist just was a talent in our mind. But he did have that swag, and we tried it. It didn't work. The public hated it, and everybody hated it. But we tried it. Got a little buzz with the Going Back to Cali song with Top Dog,
Right.
and we tried. It didn't work, so we was just really fishing, throwing stuff out to see what happened. But we were still just really making our money off the Tupac album. And
I like the
catalog.
realist though, man. He was kind of an edgier.
That's what I
Pac.
said. He was a talent. Yeah,
Right.
He was a talent. Yeah.
So
It just didn't work. Most people they didn't like it because I think if he would have just acted normal, acted regular and been himself instead of being like Pac so much, he might have got accepted because he's a talent. He was a hell of a writer and everything. He was good, good shape, looked good. And he just
I liked his "Fuck Hollywood" song or whatever it was.
Yeah,
that was a great
very
song.
Talented. Yeah, he can write. He'll sit up there because he and I got real close, and he was always with us, and suck up all that game from Suge, and he knew how to put it to pencil.
Man,
or
okay.
Put it to tape.
Man, okay. So let's talk about this. Why you went on probation, man? What happened?
Well, I was, in California, marijuana is like water out here.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about H2O water, not the
Not
other
sure,
type of water.
right?
Yeah. And so it's out there. So it's borderline is really legal. Well, it's legal in the state, but you got federal laws.
Mhm.
And I got into that game. I was mainly doing dispensaries and stuff like that. And I got to meet some guys and, being in that business. And when you're chasing money, you get a little greedy and you start doing stuff that you had no business doing. And I started selling marijuana to guys that were taking it across state line and going to the state of Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh boy.
And going to that Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And they don't like it. California is one thing. They call it dope. I remember when the U.S. Attorney said that is dope. I'm like, no, that's marijuana. The young man, that is dope.
You're smoking dope, boy.
Okay. All right. And you talking to a guy who never smoked a marijuana joint in his life. Swear to God.
But you were selling it.
But I was selling it because in my mind, in the state of California, it's legal,
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a big thing. I knew I was breaking federal law by having it going across state lines, but didn't think, who cared? Not understanding the Bible Belt rules and how, because when you're in your state, you think everything, just like the Mormons probably think it ain't a big thing being married to a couple of women. When that's what you're around and you brought up around, you don't look at it as a problem.
Right.
No.
It's not until other people say, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Or it's not right.
Yeah.
Then you'll be like, oh, okay. So the federal government had to teach me. They tapped me on my butt, took a whole bunch of stuff from me, $250,000 of cash, and to get a fine restitution.
And when was that?
But
how long ago was that?
2017.
Oh, okay.
So
so I had to go and sit down for a couple of years. Well, not actually only 13 months.
Oh.
But I was on probation or pretrial services and probation from June 30th, 2017 until February the 1st. And y'all just don't know how being told by other people what you can and can't do.
Oh man, I bet that was a pretty
especially going from law enforcement to
exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm about to say. The embarrassment of that to the family and to my parents and all of that. It was a humbling experience. Something that I'm glad I went through now, looking back on it. But it got me back in line.
Well, when you were in the system, because obviously it was known you were a police officer.
Correct.
Did they have to, put you?
No, I was in a regular. I was only because I was a police officer, didn't have a criminal record. In the federal system, they have what they call a camp, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4s. And I was at the lowest, which was a camp. It could have been lower, could have been like a halfway house or something like that. But I was at a prison camp, which is prison, but the politics is not as high. They still try to do it and try to enforce it and be on that Mexicans with the Mexicans,
Oh yeah,
blacks with the
the
blacks, whites
cars
with
and
the
all that
black.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they try it, but
Hmm.
everybody don't abide by it. They be like, "Man, I like you. I'm fucking with you."
Okay.
Or whatever.
So it's not like you see it on TV or, that's just.
They can't. They try. They try to make it like that, but they ain't trying to get no trouble. You got some knuckleheads, some that slips through.
Right.
Probably the whole time I was there, the 13, 14 months, probably about 10 to 15 guys messed up. They got sent back. Well, probably a little more during that time, caught drinking or cell phones are real big and they catch you with them and, a little minor offense. Maybe, people get slapped. You go in a room because they give you a lot of freedom. So you're really policing yourselves. And so a lot of stuff happens, but you still have snitches.
Oh,
so somehow they always found out what was going on.
Yeah,
because of their rats.
it's kind of crazy though that these people are looking at with how it's shown on TV and movies and trying to emulate that. Like,
oh well, let me just say this. Now you go to the level 4s and stuff like that. They with it,
right.
I mean, they have what they call the hand in there with the Mexicans, where you kicking up money to them monthly. You don't do nothing. You can't do nothing without their telling. And if they said word for you to do something, you better do it.
Wow. So they got a lot of pull in there.
Oh man, it's the higher you go up, the worse it can be.
That's yeah. Well, and you were, but you were at minimum. Yeah, it was like marijuana sales. It wasn't like you were selling coke.
Well, I was in jail with all type of people. You don't have murderers in federal system.
Right.
Or the people that are crazy like El Chapo and they got in the underground prisons and places like that.
Right.
But you got people that they still think they're there, or I was in there with bank robbers and stuff like that, but they had been in so long where they did so well in prison where they just worked their way down. Because mostly everybody that I was in prison with had 10 years or less.
Oh,
wow.
Where in the feds, you can have people in there that, lifers or 30 years and all of that. But it was a few guys that had been locked down for, 25 or 30 years that only had like 5 or 6 years left. But they program. They what you call program. And that means they just doing what they do. They going to school, reading, they just know what they're gonna do every day, and they just trying to come home.
So at this point,
if you're not programming, you usually getting in trouble where you don't care,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are you up to now? What are you working on now that you're are you?
Well now I got to get back to going and working and doing good. Get it going. But I'm trying to recover from this COVID.
You know what? I want to ask you about that. The COVID situation. Tell that story.
While I was in prison, actually in a halfway house on my way home, I contracted COVID and I caught it worse than anybody. December the 27th, I should have been dead. Matter of fact, I'm 2 years away from waking up today off the ventilator.
Wow.
Getting off the ventilator. Woke up 2 years ago today, couldn't move from a neck down.
Oh shit!
Now I'm, I'm still not walking. I'm walking on a walker and doing rehab every day and all of that, and trying to get my mobility back to where it was or halfway to where it was. But I'm halfway better than what I was 2 years ago, but got another halfway to go.
That's crazy. So, tell us about what they were telling your family when you were on the ventilator.
Yeah, so December the 27th, 2020 or 2021, they had advised my wife to take me off the ventilator, that I wasn't going to make it.
Holy shit.
And but God had a different plan, thank God. And they didn't allow it to happen. And y'all hear me running my mouth right now.
That's a pretty crazy story, man. Just being able to tell all these different parts of your life that just evolved into so many different things. It's pretty pretty incredible. You got a great story to tell everybody.
Yeah, so as y'all know what I've been doing, you know, the last 2 years just to pass the time. I talk daily on Bum First. Well, you know, I don't tape daily. Y'all know how to go. Everybody think I'll be taping daily because I post up daily. But this over there on Bum First, anybody that want to hear my story and listen to me talk, hey, just set up the appointment and I'll make it happen.
Check out the Bomb First podcast on
YouTube channel.
Yep,
Yep.
it's a YouTube channel.
Okay,
So-
and you got that link, Max?
I do. I can get that
Okay,
link.
you can
Yep.
throw that into the
into the description. Absolutely.
No, we'll
Appreciate it.
go.
We on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram.
Nice.
And Tubi.
Oh, you care on Tubi too.
And Tubi. Just type in the name Reggie Wright and a lot of episodes come up. They way behind, to be honest. You can get them on YouTube. But we're just trying to get a new audience. But we post up on Facebook and YouTube every day.
Nice. Yeah, because I see a lot of stuff all the time. You guys are, you know,
Yeah.
new episodes and things. So, man, well, Reggie, this has been pretty amazing for you to be able to spend the time with us and talk about what's going on. Don't you have a book out? I thought for some
No,
I thought you did not have a
not
book.
me. I need to get one.
You should.
know, but not yet. Not yet. I always say that's the Suge Knight story. I don't want to step on his toes. I wanted him to do something, and then I'll come in and correct all of his lies.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Stick with us for a second. We'll just wrap up here, and then we'll wrap things up off the
Off air.
recording.
Yep.
Respect.
But yeah, Max, go ahead and
Go ahead and take
wrap
us
this
out.
up. Yep.
All right. Well, hey, that's been the Nothing Sacred interview with Reggie Wright Jr. I am Maxwell Silverhammer.
And I am Cruise Control.
And
And that's the story there,
bitches. See ya.
We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.